Hello everybody and welcome back to Creation Myths. I have a very entertaining video for you today. I'm going to show you a recent conversation I had with the one and only Kent Hovind. Yeah, it's a little bit icky. So this happened on the Praise I Am channel, which I'll link down below, during an open mic on March 23rd, 2023. I want to preface this with, yes, I have long been an advocate for not giving Kent airtime. He's a domestic abuser. At best, he defends pedophiles, and at worst, he covers up for them at Dinosaur Adventureland. He's a fraud, and he's a well-documented liar. So my position has been that nobody should give Kent the time of day, and I totally cop to the hypocrisy here. I am sorry, I want to say that up front, like, screw that guy. The reason I jumped into this conversation is this. People still debate Kent Hovind. They don't really debate him because he just recites his script completely oblivious to what's going on around him. But you know what I mean. He still finds foils to appear in debates with him. I've been saying for I don't even know how long at this point that the correct approach to debating Kent is to just show that he doesn't understand what he's talking about. He just has no idea. That he has a script, but he can't go off script. He doesn't know a damn thing about evolution or evolutionary theory. So stop playing his game and make it crystal clear that he's nothing more than an ignorant huckster with a sales pitch, because that's what his script is. It is a sales pitch. So given the opportunity, my thinking is I can only armchair quarterback for so long. At some point, I have to put my money where my mouth is when it comes to showing people how to deal with Kent. So that's what I did. Take a look and enjoy.
Okay, Dan, the man with the plan, is here, and so let's
Hey, everybody.
hand it to Dan and Kent. Dan, thanks for being here. Dan, a brief introduction from yourself for anybody who might not be familiar with you, and then the topic is where or what is the evidence for evolution. We'll allow you and Kent to go back and forth a little bit on it. So, Dan, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hi. So I'm Dr. Dan. I'm an evolutionary biologist. My channel is Creation Myths, where I talk about the silliness that is creation science. That's what I do. So in a lot of detail, I will say, there's numbers, we do math, it's fun. So here's what I'd like to hear from Kent. The topic is best evidence for evolution. In order, that's this broad, that's not great. So let's narrow it down. So Kent, what mechanisms of evolution can't work or don't work? Let's start there, because you say evolution can't happen. So what mechanisms of evolution can't do whatever it is evolution has to do?
Well, the word evolution is a really a slippery word. Do you
Biological.
mean say that again?
Biological evolution.
Okay. Biological evolution, if by that you mean animals can change varieties, so we now have 4,000 varieties of potato. That's evolution. They all came from a common potato. Do you believe potatoes are related to elephants? Is that what you mean by evolution?
Well, hang on, that was a question. I'm happy to answer it. We know your script. I've heard it a million times. So what I'm asking is what mechanisms of evolution don't work? So yes, a potato and an elephant are related by a common ancestor.
Oh, okay.
There are mechanisms to get from that common ancestor to those different things. Which of those mechanisms of evolution don't work?
All we ever observe are variations within a pre-existing code.
That's the script.
To get 4,000 kinds of potatoes. You just said potatoes and elephants are related. I would assume you're related to a potato and an elephant also in your thinking. What mechanism would do this? That's why I say, what do you mean by evolution? There's six different levels. Dan, you said
no, we're not going to do the 6 levels thing.
Dan, we're not going
to
do excuse me, Dan, I'm just going to make a point of moderation. We're not going to be over talking, Dan.
Sam, here's the thing though.
So when you ask a question, you're going to have to give him time to respond to the question, and you can behave just like you would require one of your students to behave. You just wait until the teacher's done, and then you'll have plenty of time to talk. You know how this goes. It's simple.
I do, Sam, if I may, yes. If I may, I'm a little time limited, and I know Kent's 6 levels of evolution script. What I'm asking about,
if you want to come back when you have more time, so you don't have to be rude and let him finish talking, then maybe that would work. Maybe that would work better.
Well, look,
Amen.
maybe I can clarify my question to Kent so that we can skip the stellar evolution and the this and the that. Can I clarify my question so we could focus on the relevant topic?
You can
Kent,
ask
would that be all right with you?
questions. That's
Yeah,
fair.
okay. Okay, so here's my question, Kent. Let's start here. Let's start narrow biological evolution. What are the basic mechanisms of biological evolution? Let's start there.
Well, you'd have to answer that question since you're the one who believes
in it.
No,
I'm asking you because you say it can't happen.
I think we've never observed any animal produce what anyone with half a brain cell would call a different kind of animal. We don't observe this. You can imagine it all you want.
Sure.
So what mechanisms? Give me the list of mechanisms that you think work for your religion, and I'll be glad to dismantle it.
Here's the thing, Kent. I don't think you know the mechanisms of evolution, so I'm asking you. I think you're talking about something that you don't know anything about. So I would love to provide evidence for this, but I don't think you know what the topic is actually about. So like in my class, when I teach intro evolution, there are 5 basic mechanisms of evolution. Do you think you can name them?
Dan, instead of a mini quiz, can you just provide your evidence for evolution?
Yes, I'm getting there, but it's based on these mechanisms. And if he doesn't know the mechanisms, then what I'm saying won't matter.
All right. Okay. Well, the time's short, so.
Tell you what, mutations is one of them.
There's one. Yeah, one.
Okay. And you think
I bet you need 2.
Would you please shut up when I'm talking? Okay. Okay. You think mutations are going to cause a creature to change to something else? Almost 99.999% of the mutations we've observed are harmful, fatal, or useless. You think an amoeba is going to turn to a whale by mutations. That's one of the many mechanisms you use. I point out.
What are the other 4?
You're going to interrupt. You're interrupting again. Gee whiz. You do this. If your student did this, you'd fail them and kick them out of class. Okay. Why don't you call Donnie? Let's schedule a debate. You and me, Dan. I challenge you, and you bring the mechanisms that you think were going to cause evolution. One by one, we'll dismantle them, equal time. And Donnie, you shut off his mic when it's my turn to talk. Fair enough? Donnie, call standing for truth. Dan, one at a time. You think mutations are going to cause evolution. I point out all the mutations we've observed are harmful, fatal, or neutral. You would have to have trillions of beneficial mutations that add information. That amoeba on your chart is going to have to add arm and legs and hair and lungs and skeletal system. That's not science. To say we all came from a common ancestor like a protozoa, but through the mechanism of mutations, it's not going to add any information. So that mechanism is useless.
Okay.
That's like saying smashing cars into a tree is going to turn them into an airplane. So go ahead. What's your next mechanism?
Ahead, Dan.
Yep. Okay. So you got one mechanism evolution. What are the other 4? I bet you could. I bet there's one that everybody can get because Darwin came up with it. I bet everyone knows that one, right?
Okay.
Well, Dan, why don't you? Okay, Kent, go ahead.
Yeah, Kent, go ahead. What's the other 4? What are the other 4? If you knew them, you would have already said them.
Praise I am. I'll only continue if he will shut off his mic. Will you do that, please? Shut him off.
Absolutely.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Let's make sure Kent has a full
another mechanism that you claim causes your evolution is natural selection. Nature has to select the strongest to survive. The weaker have to die off in order for this to work because natural selection is only going to select. It doesn't create anything. Mutations don't create any information that's new. Natural selection doesn't create any information that's new. You're dreaming to think that that's going to turn a protozoa to a whale and a human. And you're dreaming that you are related to a potato. I'm sorry to hear about that. I ate one of your relatives today for lunch. I'm so sorry, okay? Had I known, I would have, never mind, I would have eaten it anyway. Okay, so yes, the mechanisms that you claim cause evolution do not cause any evolution. They cause chaos. We now have 400 breeds of cows that have been from artificial selection. Artificial selection is where man decides, hey, I think I'm going to make this one give more milk or more beef or stand the heat better. But all the variations we've been able to produce through natural selection or through artificial selection have been keeping it within what everybody would call the same kind. The cows are still producing cows. Most of them wouldn't survive in nature. So you don't have a mechanism for your religion. You believe it happened by faith, but there's no science behind it. Where the purpose of this debate, Dan, is where is the evidence? This is not a quiz whether I know the 5 things you teach in your class. Where is the evidence you claim you're related to a potato? Where is the evidence for this? DNA similarity? That's just as much evidence for a common designer. That's not proof of common ancestry. You can believe that, and you've chosen to limit yourself to looking at that only. But it's just as much evidence of a common designer.
I just want to say, boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. Right over to you, Dr. Dan.
Okay, so Dan, equal time. Feel free. Go ahead.
So everybody, if Kent knew the 5 basic mechanisms of evolution that you learn in an intro bio class, he would have said it right there. So he doesn't know the basic mechanisms. Okay, I want to make that clear for everybody. So you've said a couple times tonight, you think everything evolved from an amoeba or a protozoa, and you came.
Oh,
from
Kent, let's just make sure, Dan. Kent, if you want to note what he said because you want to respond to something there, note it down, and then we'll give you equal time after Dan's finished responding. Dan, go ahead.
Yeah, so you'll notice, everybody, that he didn't answer the question. He can't answer the question because he doesn't understand the thing he's criticizing. He just goes right into his spiel that he's practiced over decades in filibusters. Does everyone see how that works? Just completely ignore whatever is said and go right to the script that he uses every time. Part of that script is to say that evolutionists think everyone came from an amoeba. Everybody came from a protozoa. I can give you the evidence that that's the case, but first I need to know what you think that means. What do you mean when you say amoeba?
Okay, Dan, thank you. Kent, go ahead, uninterrupted.
Okay, you said, I don't know the things that you teach in your class, the 5 basic mechanisms. Do you know the names of the books in order? Do you know who Moses' grandfather was? I could give you 1,000 Bible questions. I bet you don't know either. Okay, come on now. Let's get this back to reality here. The fact is, we don't see any animal produce anything. I point out the books teach we all had a common ancestor, which was a single-celled, primitive, unicellular organism. Here's a 2021 biology textbook showing, 2021, showing, let's see, elephants and rabbits and monkeys all going back to a common ancestor. This is propaganda. This isn't science. They drew lines on paper, and that's all it is. So it's just not science. My objection is, you guys want all of us to pay for your religion. Go start a private school and teach your religion to those who wish to come learn it. And the fact that I don't know what you teach in your class, send me the 5 mechanisms and I'll debunk them one by one. Okay, Dan, get him on. Dan, Donnie, schedule a debate on your channel. I'll look up the 5 mechanisms that he teaches in his class, and one by one I'll debunk them. None of them are going to add the information to turn a protozoa. Watch this right here. Protozoa turn to a fish, a reptile, a frog, a starfish, a human, a spider. This is the stuff the kids are being taught. I object to that, Your Honor. That's not science. Go ahead.
The question was, what do you mean by protozoa? That was the question. This isn't about the Bible. Whoa, this isn't about the Bible. This isn't about what I know about the Bible. You bill yourself as Dr. Dino, an expert on evolution. I think it's reasonable that people should expect you know what you're talking about. Right?
I do.
The kind of stuff that gets taught in intro bio about evolutionary theory. The second thing I asked is, what do you mean by protozoa? You don't even need to give me a right answer. You just need to say what you mean when you say that word. And you went on this big riff about how I don't know anything about the Bible. And what does it matter anyway? If you, Kent, don't know anything about evolution. All I asked was, what do you mean by this word you say all the time? Okay, what do you mean when you say protozoa? What does that word mean to you?
I've said many times, a protozoa or some single-celled creature, there are 20,000 now varieties of single-celled creatures. This textbook says all the many forms of life on Earth today are descended from a common ancestor found in a population of primitive unicellular organisms. So when I say protozoa, I say it as an example because the books show a protozoa in this case, and they label it protozoa. Some people label it bacteria. Some people label it single-celled organism. Do you believe all the life forms came from a single-celled organism of any kind, whether protozoa, bacteria, or anything?
Okay, first of all, so no, you don't know what protozoa are because protozoa are not bacteria. Those are different things.
I didn't
say
they were.
Do you know the difference? You just said protozoa and bacteria.
They came from is protozoa single-celled?
Yeah, but it's not bacteria.
Okay. I said they came from a single-celled organism. That's what they teach. Protozoa is just an example.
Okay, it's just an example.
Unicellular organisms. Protozoa, some books say bacteria. I've said this many times. Why are you straining at a gnat and swallowing a camel? You believe you came from a single-celled creature, don't you?
I still don't have an answer to what you mean by the word protozoa. All I'm asking you is to define that word.
A protozoa
Okay,
is one.
let's try. Okay. I can't stay. I got another few minutes here because I do have other things. I do have obligations.
Yay.
I can't stay for too much longer, so I do apologize.
Well, Dan, he did say by protozoa, single-celled creature, and then he asked if you believe you ultimately came from a single-celled creature. Did you want to answer Kent's question?
Yeah, I'd love to answer Ken's question. The answer is yes. All extant life evolved from unicellular organisms, originally prokaryotic and then more recently eukaryotic. Does Kent know what those two words mean, prokaryotic and eukaryotic? Because if you're going to say there's no evidence for evolution, and I explain the genetic similarities between prokaryotes and eukaryotes, and then the more derived eukaryotes, if Kent doesn't know what those words
can I say
mean,
one thing?
wait, hang on, C. Brown.
Actually, C. Brown, just one second. So Dan was asking Kent about eukaryotes and prokaryotes. Kent, did you want to respond to that?
Okay. Whoa, hang on. I was almost done when C. Brown interrupted there. So if, I can go through the evidence for prokaryotes and eukaryotes and endosymbiosis and the more derived eukaryotes and the different lineages. We could talk about that evidence. But if the words prokaryote and eukaryote and endosymbiosis don't mean anything to Kent, then that's going to be a useless discussion. So I need to know that we're on the same page with the definition. So Kent, when I say the word prokaryote, what does that mean to you?
Some cells have a nucleus that's bound up in a membrane. Some cells do not. Man has decided to stick these labels on there. And I don't think the cells care. The cells do not care what we call them, okay? But the textbooks do say we came from a single-celled creature, and you yourself admitted you're related to a potato and you came from a single-celled creature. This is never observed. All the single-celled creatures we've ever observed in the laboratory, when they make babies, produce the same kind. Whether it's a bacteria or a protozoa, or it's always the same kind. They've been watching these produce babies for a long time. This textbook tells the kids the protozoa in this case, and they write it out on the book, P-R-O-T. It's spelled out there for you. That's the only reason I say it, because that's what it says on this book. Some books say bacteria. In those cases, I say, well, they teach you came from a bacteria. You yourself said you believe a single-celled creature of some kind, and a protozoa is one of the 20,000 kinds of single-celled creatures that are alive, okay? So that's what they're teaching. I object to that. We don't see any protozoa or bacteria produce anything other than their kind. Do you have evidence of a protozoa turning into anything other than a protozoa, or producing babies that are other than a protozoa? You can make them in the laboratory in a hurry. Can you make them turn to something else?
You sort of turned into a piece of shit, Kent, so there's a good argument.
Well, Ronaldo, hey, keep it respectful. You've broken the rules in your first 3 words. No swearing. Okay, let's keep it as cordial as possible. So he's out. Dan, go ahead. Equal time.
So great. You got prokaryote. You know what prokaryote means, and I'll just give you eukaryote. I'm assuming you know that one too. Awesome. So one of the main things to get from prokaryotes to eukaryotes involves a process called horizontal gene transfer and recombination. We all know what recombination is, how that works. It happens even when humans reproduce, right? When mom and dad and the genetic recombination happens. Good. We're all on the same page with recombination. Kent, I have heard you describe that process in the most bananas terms I've ever heard in my life, where you say that the DNA from mom unzips and the DNA from dad unzips, and then the half strand from mom and the half strand from dad zip up together. Is that your understanding of how recombination works?
That is how it works with half the DNA code.
The DNA works.
The DNA code divides on the middle.
Dan, please let's allow Kent to respond. If you disagree with his explanation,
I'm good, y'all. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good, y'all. Have a good night. I'm good. I'll listen to Kent give an answer to that, but I am good. Peace and love, everybody.
Bye, Dr. Dan.
You running, Dan?
I'll stay out of respect. I'll stay while Kent answers, and then I'm going to peace out.
Bye, Dan. Bye, Dan.
Oh, wow.
And subscribe to Creation Myths while he listens.
Okay. Bye, Dan.
Feel free to respond.
Okay. Yes. You get half of the DNA. The DNA splits down the middle. You get half the latter from your mom, half from your dad. They have to zip back together in a very complex method. And it's amazing that it works at all, and it works really good. There's CATG, the 4 different parts of the gene across there, and they combine together and make all the traits that you have. And you get half the traits from mom and half from dad. And any biology teacher should know that. You get half the DNA code from your parents, each parent. That's how it works. I don't understand I don't understand.
Okay, Dan, before you leave,
thank
Dan,
you.
before
Good night,
you leave,
everybody. Have a great night. Bye.
Dan, call
Take
Donnie,
care, Dan.
schedule a debate, pick the topic. I want you to supply ahead of time which one you want to talk about. What's the best evidence for evolution?
The letters in the mail. Okay, see you later.
And you realize that.
well, Dan, I just want to jump in. The title of tonight's show is "Where is or what is the evidence for evolution?" Recombination allowing large sections of DNA basically to move from one chromosome to another in this genetic shuffling process every generation. Okay, whether Dan disagrees with some of the minor details with Kent, how is that providing evidence for evolution?
So that was something, wasn't it? To briefly review what we just watched, Kent was able to name 2 of the 5 most basic mechanisms of evolution. The mechanisms that you learn in an intro bio class, not even an evolution class, just a general biology class. And he couldn't name the rest, despite billing himself as an expert on the topic. And he very helpfully admitted that he couldn't name all 5, that he doesn't know the basics of evolutionary biology. You can also see that no matter what I said, he picked out a few key words and went right to his script, whatever part he thought was relevant to what I was saying. But he wasn't even trying to actually engage with any of it. It's like he doesn't even listen to complete thoughts. He just hears the key words and does a mental control F to find that spot in his script, and then starts talking about bananas and potatoes and you sharing common ancestors, right? He also, and this is my absolute favorite part, thinks that genetic recombination involves a DNA double helix from each parent unwinding, and then half of each parent DNA strand zipping up together, forming a half-mom, half-dad hybrid double helix. That is amazing that he thinks that. I saw him say that in a video from decades ago, and I thought there was no way he still thought that was the case, or that even if he did, he would go out of his way to specifically defend that is correct. That is just incredible. And the icing on the cake was that Donnie comes in and tries to cover for him right at the end. Did you catch that? Oh, he only got some minor details wrong. I swear, there is no depth too low, truly. The takeaway here, of course, is that Kent, for all his bluster, knows nothing. Nothing about evolution, nothing about basic biology. He's supposedly this expert in evolution and why it's wrong. He's Dr. Dino, right? Yet he's completely ignorant of the basics, the most basic things of the field he's supposedly refuting. So my message, first and foremost, is this. Don't debate Kent. Don't set up a debate with Donnie and go on SFT. Don't do what I just did. At the top, I copped to my hypocrisy on this one, and I'm sorry. I'm not going to do this again. He's not just a genuinely vile person. He's also dumb as a rock and just not worth your time. Whoever you are in this context, he's not worth your time. Now, I know that message is not going to be persuasive to people. So to anyone who can't resist his siren song, my plea is this. Don't play his game. Don't just let him go on his script and steamroll you and just do the thing that he's been doing for decades. Instead, show everyone that he's just repeating a memorized script and he actually can't engage when he's asked something that is off script. That he actually knows nothing about the topic. Make him prove otherwise. Make him prove to you that he's not just talking out of his butt. He can't prove it because he can't. Because he is just talking out of his butt. He's got his script, he's got his sales pitch, and that's it. It really is that shallow. So that was my recent interaction with Kent. And that's my message as a takeaway. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment, and share it around. And as always, don't get fooled.